Secretary, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your service. The Eastern North Dakota Alternative Water Supply Program is incredibly important. Water supply, municipal and residential, industrial water supply for all of Eastern North Dakota. We've been able to secure $158 million for it through both the One Big Beautiful Bill and through the appropriations process last year. In addition, we're able to use the McCluskey Canal, both because of legislation and completing the environmental impact statement, which is about a $200 million savings to taxpayers and benefit to the project that we don't have to now fund with building other structures. It will also save about $4 million a year. So that's over $350 million in terms of progress we've made in terms of the federal obligation to fund that water supply longstanding. This goes back all the way 50 years or more. Matching the commitment made by the state of North Dakota, as well as many local communities, I think more than 30 local communities who've stepped up. And so the federal government is matching its share as obligated to do so. Will you continue to help us to fund and complete that vitally important project for all of Eastern North Dakota?
Yes.
And I believe parts of Minnesota, too.
Yeah, yes, and I would say, with a smile on my face, that project's been going on so long that Senator Dorgan and Senator Conrad worked on that for decades. So it was a blue state project, and now it's a red state. I mean, this is a perfect example of just doing the right thing that's for the people to get something done. But I would also say that I know from my prior position, and you know from your prior position, the state of North Dakota is paying a higher percentage of its share than almost any other water project in the country. And I think one of the ways to prioritize where the dollars goes is which states are willing to put up more money, because that's a way to extend the federal dollars even further.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true and much appreciated, and your help is much appreciated there. In Theodore Roosevelt National Park, which you've had opportunity to visit on occasion, we have wild horses there. And they're very important, not only to the people of the state of North Dakota, but to the visitors that come to see these wild horses. I've got legislation in to protect those wild horses along with Senator Kane, bipartisan legislation, and he's involved because we actually are following the approach that's been taken on the East Coast with some of the ponies they have on some of the islands and so forth in the national parks. Do you support that legislation? Will you help us enact it?
Yeah, entirely support you on that project. And the management by the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, I mean, unlike challenges we have, say, on BLM land in Nevada, where we've got 80,000 wild burros and horses causing the management of the approximately 200 or so horses in the park is exemplary in terms of how a park should do it over that size of a park. And you've been instrumental in working that, Senator, both when you were governor and now as senator. So thanks for helping to preserve that great element of the park.
And in fact, we provide for that management to make sure that we don't have an issue as far as too many horses for the park and for the health and diversity of the herd, right?
Exactly.
So that's an important point. Thank you
Exactly.
for bringing it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, right on. And then at Camp Grafton, we have a BIA law enforcement training center. We've had incredible enrollment. And again, we've got Artesia, New Mexico, which does an incredible job. Of course, that's in the southwest part of the country. Up in the upper plains, we need that law enforcement training as well. We're really behind or down in terms of filling BIA law enforcement vacancies on reservation. This is vitally important law enforcement issue, so we need this training center. We've made, like I say, great progress there in developing it and growing it. Will you commit to helping us continue to do that?
Oh, absolutely. This is something that, as governor, I was also supporting and championing, and you know you've been a great champion of this thing, and its location right adjacent to the Spirit Lake tribal nation, perfect location. And again, part of it is recruiting and retaining people from the Northern Plains tribes. It's been difficult, but having a training center closer to where people have grown up, closer to the tribes are going to work in, will be definitely help us on retention.
Final point, talk about the importance of multiple use with good stewardship, but multiple use on public lands.
Well, first of all, it's the law, and it's how, when public lands were set aside under the multi-use doctrine, and that includes access for hunting, fishing, appropriate mineral development, ranching, timber development. We'd gone down a path in this country where somehow people thought if it was public land, you weren't supposed to set a foot on it, you weren't supposed to cut a tree, you weren't supposed to develop minerals, you definitely weren't supposed to do energy production. That's not how this was set up. That's not the law. The law is the multiple use doctrine, and we're working to ensure that that happens.
Thank you, Secretary. Appreciate it.